Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Good, excellent. So, participants. Good. Now we can continue from where we stopped. Now, next one we're looking at is the changing meaning of work. I don't. Many of you may not know it, but work or job as a concept or as a way of life have actually changed significantly over the centuries. How people perceive work as a way of life have changed. That's the best way of putting it over the centuries. Now, according to history, work have evolved in many ways, but we're going to examine. Please, can you mute yourself, please? So work have evolved, the way we perceive work have changed a lot, but we'll be examine those changes in the life with respect to the following: the Greeks, how the Greeks perceive work, the Hebrews. We say the Hebrews are talking about the Jews, and then the early Christians, and then later Christians during the Renaissance, Reformation, and the Industrial Revolution era. And then the Protestants, the capitalists and socialists. So we're going to examine how work was perceived by these groups, and also during the era that those groups existed. Well, they still exist today, but there have been a lot of changes in their perception of work. Now, let's begin with the Greeks. Greeks are, many inventions or many philosophers are from Greeks. A lot of experiments of scientific breakthroughs were done by Greeks, but anyway, but prior to that, or in the past, ancient Greece per se, they regard work as a cause. Their name for work was chronos, which means sorrow. So to them, it's like a necessary evil. Work is like a necessary evil. According to Homer, when you have a chance, you can look for Homer. It was a Greek philosopher. He wrote that the gods hated mankind, and because of malice, he condemned human beings to work. So, as such, the Hellenes developed a slave-based economy and relegated labor to inferior. So the Greeks, those that do labor, because in those days, work are usually manual labor, farming, blacksmithing, and so on and so on. So they gave that kind of work to the inferior people, what they call the inferior people. That means those in the lower class in the society. The upper class, they are more involved with, they are rich, they read poetry, enjoy their lives, but the main work they're done by the peasants. Simply, they were peasants. So, and during that time, unlike what we have today, where a peasant, somebody who is come from a poor background, can get rich through sheer hard work and thrift. In those days, if you're poor, you're going to be poor for the rest of your life. So the kind of status people have those things is kind of ascribed status, whereby if you're born into a poor family, you're going to be poor. There's no question about it. If you're born into a rich family, you'll be rich. So it is those craftsmen, peasants that do work, and their work is regarded as a misery, as a sorrowful thing. The upper class own the lands that the peasants work on. So in general, the Greeks and later the Romans viewed work as a painful necessity. Okay, they know that they need it, but it's something that is not nobody likes to do. Only if left for the low inferior people, which another way of saying poor people. You know. Now, come the Hebrew. They see work as an atonement for sin, an atonement for sin. So, in fact, they see work, they view work as a punishment. So, according to the Hebrew sacred book, we call it the Talmud. So, if a man does not find his food like the animals and the birds, but must earn it through work, that is due to sin. You know, they believe that animals like birds, they don't grow, they don't farm, they don't save money, they don't even work, but they still eat every day. So they understand, okay, if man can have to work for what he needs to do, work for his food, work for his house, that means he must be paying for his sin, some kind of sin. So they see work as a man's burden to pay for original sin. What they believe was the original sin, that the sin we are born inside it. So we are working to pay it off. That's what they believe. So in the mind of the Hebrew, work was atonement and a way to regain lost spirituality. So in other words, any work, no matter how small, was preferred to idleness. Yeah, I mean, of course, even at that, they still want to work because they say working is better than staying idle. Because when you are working, you are paying for what you original sin, which will help you to regain spirituality. So, but then that was how they see work in those days. But they still want to work because it's better than staying idle in their view. Okay. Now, this leads us to the next view of work. This one is the early Christians. So, the early Christians, of course, they believe that it is better to work than to stay idle, but they don't value work that much, as they say they placed no value on productive enterprises and the accumulation of wealth. So the accumulation of wealth is seen as something that is not spiritual. So because the Bible, according to the Bible, or the teachings of Jesus Christ, it says, no man can serve two masters. See, ye cannot serve God and mammon. It is easier for a camel to go through the eye of the needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of God. So they see the accumulation of wealth as the worship of money or mammon. So they believe that you cannot serve God while making money. So that is they believe that there's a disconnect between the two. So that now, essentially, what the Christians thought was that the best work would be the one that does not fill your mind with the desire for profit, and the one that does not distract you from God. They believe that if you are looking for money, working hard, accumulating wealth, you will not have enough time to go to church on Sunday or to do your Sunday to fulfill your religious duties because you are too busy making money. So they believe that there's a disconnect between searching for God or seeking God and seeking for wealth. So that was what the early Christians believed. So they disregard work, and because they know that they believe that too much work will now take you away from God. Now, to the early Christians, work at its best would be pure spirituality, a loving gaze fixed on a better world after death. So if you're working, just work for the bare subsistence, support your family, not try to accumulate too much wealth. We should focus more on the salvation, the life after death. So that was what they believe in. Now, so according to them, only the only addition of virtue in work was that it could be a means of charity in providing for the needs of others. So that means you are making that money to redistribute it to the poor. That's the only way they can see some kind of goodness or virtue in work. So that was the viewpoint of the early Christians, and that viewpoint stayed for the first 1,000 years of the year of the Lord. Of course, you know that at that time there was nothing like science. There was nothing like the Renaissance or Reformation. There was no industrial revolution. So people just believe what any philosopher says. They don't even try to verify or question it, which is one of the landmarks of science. Okay. Now came the later Christians. Next 500 years after the year of the Lord came what we call the Renaissance period. Renaissance, when people started to question certain things that have been believed in for centuries. So when you have a chance, I would like you to read Google Renaissance, the Reformation, and the Industrial Revolution. You're going to learn a lot of things that happen to human beings, to their mindset when it comes to work, when it comes to life in general. Anyway, I think get it comes to. So during this era, the Western attitude, or let me say generally, the attitude towards work changed significantly. For instance, at the beginning of the 16th century, Martin Luther proclaimed that all forms of work, when I say Martin Luther, I don't mean Martin Luther King, but I was, I would say the main person that started the Protestant movement is Martin Luther King, or is Martin Luther King. So he proclaimed that all forms of labor have equal value in the eyes of God. So he also said that if you want to carry out God's will, you have to perform your vocational duties to the best of your ability. So work is no longer seen as a bad thing or as something that will move you away from your religious duties or move you away from your spirituality. And he said that all forms of labor have equal value before God. And also, which means that to carry out God's will means to perform your vocational duties to the best of your ability. So a few things that we have to glean from the teachings of Martin Luther. First of all, the first one that he believed that he thought that idleness is unnatural and evil aberration. So, in other words, to maintain oneself by work is a way of serving God. So, if you work and maintain yourself through that work, it's the way of serving God. So, things started changing after this period. During the Renaissance, people started questioning authorities, and so many things that they believed in for centuries started questioning it. Now, Reformation and the Industrial Revolution brought in science. And then so many things that people believe we are the act of nature, or I would say they are caused by a force that they cannot control. They find out that they can actually control those things through experiments and so on and so forth. Anyway, I think you get the point. So in 1536, John Calvin taught us a doctrine of predestination that placed only industrious people among the chosen people for heaven's grace. So what his work up to was John Calvin was very popular because of his teachings. According to him, work only suffices. And to please God, work must not be casual. Now, so what he's trying to say here is that it has to be a consistent, work has to be consistent, methodical, disciplined, rational, uniform, and specialized work. So it don't mean that you have to work today, you don't work tomorrow, you know, it's being done in an inconsistent way. No, you have to be, if you're working, if this is your shift, you work your shift, you know, consistently and religiously. So according to his teachings, well, with all these teachings in general that I just explained, that disconnection or disconnect between religious piety and worldly activities, for example, work, became resolved. Now, as work becomes defining, work came to be defined as a call or some kind of religious duty. So people now started to see work as a way of life. Now work is no longer your paycheck. It defines everything about you, you know. So which leads us to the Protestant viewpoint, how they view work. Now, Luther and Calvin, I would say they are the grandfathers of Protestant theology. Okay, their teachings now began to make people to appreciate the pursuit of wealth. According to them, as a matter of fact, let me put it in this way: they sanctioned, or they approved, or they made people to start approving worldly achievements, and that led to the birth of what they call the Protestant work ethic. We have the chance, you can Google this. And Google what they called the Protestant work ethic. When you get the chance, Google it. You will see a lot of information and even some piece of history about work, how it has evolved. So there are other doctrines of that period that joined this religious ethic to help establish work as the central tenet of Western society. So those factors, a few things that we have to look at here when it comes to how the Protestants view work. One is that there are some other factors that elevated man's attitude to work. So those factors include the Renaissance mission to build. Okay, another one is to build, create, and to realize one's potential. So that era of Renaissance, and people it's like an era of where a large number of people are seeking for true knowledge that are not based on myths and legends. Knowledge that is based on logic. Let me see if I can get something about the Renaissance mission. The Renaissance period, the Renaissance. So you can see what I'm talking about in a little bit. Just give me 1 minute. Let me pull it out. The Renaissance. And I have to open a new page. Let's see if I can open a new page. The Renaissance. Yeah, open a new page. Okay. Just 1 minute. Okay, I think I have it here. What is it? What is it? Yeah, I think it's it. All right. So the Renaissance. Okay. Renaissance period. You see, the Renaissance was a fervent period of European cultural, artistic, political, and economic rebirth following the Middle Ages. So generally described as taking place from the 14th century to the 17th century. The Renaissance promoted the rediscovery of classical philosophy. So 3 major periods of the Renaissance is here. Charles Haskin wrote, the Renaissance of 12th century. That there were three main periods. That's okay. That's not what we're looking for. The three facts about Renaissance is it transformed the society from darkness to light. See? So it has changed the society from darkness to light. Humanism was the main philosophy. So and so on and so forth. Like I say, when you had a chance, read about the Renaissance, especially from this Encyclopedia Britannica. That will give you more reliable facts about the Renaissance era. So those are one of the things that influence the Protestant viewpoint about work. Now, another one is the mercantilist disregards for unproductive citizens. During this era, where we have the merchants, if you're not productive, they won't work with you. So that means you have to figure out a way to improve your skills and be useful before you can be, be given a position or a job, whatever it is. Then the Age of Enlightenment, also, those are the ages when the Protestant viewpoint started to take root in the world. Then come the era of social Darwinists, whereby this led by Charles Darwin, who believed in the survival of the fittest. Not that something supreme being make you to survive. No, you survive because you are one among the fittest. So if you're not strong enough to adapt to the environment, then you die. That was it. So that people's belief, their mindset started to change, and that actually transformed the world. And that was the era where when the Protestant viewpoints, started to take root. Now, by the 20th century, Protestant ethics, free-will capitalism, humanistic socialism have merged to form an essentially multidisciplinary religion of work. So there seems to exist what is called a religion of work, the worship of work. People want to work to make money and take care of their family, take care of their business, and so on and so forth. Now, so each of these major currents of thought embrace the idea that it is every man's right and duty to perform work. Not only that, but it is also their duty to perform work that will bring the greatest good to the greatest number of people in the society. So there's one way I'd like to summarize this concept of the Protestant view of work. Now, the early Christians, especially the Catholics, those who belong to the Catholic Church, they were told that prior to this era of Protestant work ethic, or the era of the Renaissance, Reformation, and the Industrial Revolution, prior to that, for 1,000 years, even more than that, people we are trained, or we are taught to believe that salvation with them after life. So that means salvation awaits in another life, not in this life, in another life, and that in the meantime, blessed are the poor. So you don't have to pursue so much wealth. Just take subsistence level is good enough. So look for spirituality, because you are blessed. You are blessed in another life because you have salvation. So, but the Protestant work ethic or the Protestant philosophy offers a more personal relationship with Jesus Christ that leads to more blessed life here and now. So they advocate this model: self-reliance, rugged individualism, thrift, and hard work. So the attitude to work changed significantly. So now, then let's look at which lead to many things. that bring us to work how the socialist movement sees work. The best way to show how socialist movements see work is to, explain the words of Karl Marx. Karl Marx, which is who is considered to be the father of socialism. I'm going to show you Karl Marx. Just give me a minute. Let me pull it out so you can see. He was considered to be the father of socialism. It's right here. I hope you can see my screen. Yeah, if you can see it. So here is Karl Marx. Right here. Here, let's see. Titanic. Okay, good. Yes, that's him right here. Can you see the picture of Karl Marx?
Yes.
So he was a German Jew, who was a revolutionary sociologist, historian, and economist, and he published a lot of books, or I would say writings, on communism and socialism. So basically, the kind of government that's been practiced in places like China and the former Soviet Union were based on the writings of Karl Marx, whereby the state owns everything, the means of production. So what is the most important thing there is the worker. So you as an individual does not own the means of production. What you own is your skill and your labor. So during his era, what he was teaching from his statement was that the modern man will no longer be the wise man or the ascetic or the citizen, but the worker. So the worker is valued. The worker understood as the producer. So an immense society of free workers, freely associated, freely associated, then administering in common the instruments of work and endlessly transforming the matter of the world for the greater good of the community. Such is the socialist idea. Now, unfortunately, what Karl Marx was teaching is not really possible to apply it in real life. Because those countries that applied it, especially the countries in Eastern Europe, they compare them to what you have in Western Europe and United States. You see that Eastern Europe is more poorer, in fact, poor compared to Western Europe. Because there's no way you can say that nobody can have their own business. Everything belongs to the government. So, for example, the USSR, when they started their own communism, they collectivized, because that time the means of production was agriculture and industry. So they collectivized farming. So those farmers that own land that produce wheat and other crops and animals, they took over the farm from them by force. Then trying to force them to work in a collective farm owned by the state. Then they will pay based on need. So some farmers doesn't like that. Instead of giving the animals, they actually starve the animals to death. So many things. Now, if you can, the level of motivation that is involved when you are working for the state as a collective, you don't own your farm, you don't own the animal that you take a tend, and you don't receive remuneration based on your skill or effort. Instead, you receive somebody who has no skill at all, but have more need than you, be paid more than you who have the requisite skill. So it didn't work out. There's no way it can work out. I encourage you to read about communism and its effect. People are not. So Soviet Union actually, when they thought they were growing, they were actually it was actually a dictatorship. Many things that they invented in those days, people who are working with their gun pointed on their head. They're not working because they are motivated. Given that the more work they do, the more skill, the better skill they have, the more money they make. No, they were forced to work like that. So eventually it collapsed. It collapsed I think in 1989. Communism collapsed. When China tried it, following the model of Soviet Union, I thought it led to very, very very huge famine. Millions of people died of hunger because their farms were taken by force and they are forced to work in a collective lands. And so it led to a lot of ugliness. People died. China was not growing. Only after China started allowing people to own their own business. Now when you own your own business, you have motivation to work. You have motivation to improve, because the more you improve, the more money you make. So that will motivate you to look for whatever you can do to make sure that you satisfy your customer. So when I'm doing it, you are doing it, everybody's doing it. You see, people companies start to grow, and the whole country start to grow. So when China changed from that, and then allow private enterprise, that was when China started to grow as a company, as a country. Prior to that, China was a very poor country, very, very poor. People were dying of starvation. You go to the hospital, there's not enough medication. At a point, in Russia, they were even doing surgery without anesthetics. So it was really bad. It was really bad idea. So Karl Marx himself that brought it to the idea. He died a poor man. The few times he was alive, he was living under the benevolence of one of his friends, whose father have an industry. The father was an industrialist of his friend. I think his name is Frederick Engels. Yeah. So now let's look at work as a capitalist viewpoint. Yes, this is work as a capitalist. So capitalism, like the one we have in the United States and Britain and France, work is regarded with great respect. So because you can make more money by improving your skill, you are motivated to go to school, to train, acquire knowledge, and then make money. Now, because when you make, the more money you make, if you can produce something that the customer like, you become rich. You are motivated to research and then get that thing produced. Produce new watches, produce new kind of jewelries, produce better way of communication, because you will be rewarded abundantly. So that actually brings the best from people. People that scientists trying to figure out a way to bring new things, because they know that, for example, a scientist invented something new. I think for that almost 20 years, nobody else can make that product. If anybody makes it, they'll be paying him royalty for the rest of his life. They call it patent. So the patent lasts for how many years it lasts, but it's up to 20 years. For that 20 years, anybody that manufactured that product will pay him royalty. So because of that, you keep trying to improve yourself, because when you improve yourself, you get better and better rewarded. Unlike communism, where you're not rewarded for improving yourself. Instead, everything you do belongs to the state. And even people who are less qualified than you might be paid higher amount of salary than you, because they have more needs. It was a very big disincentive. So that's why the Soviet Union broke up. China transformed. And those countries that refuse to do that, like North Korea, they are still poor today. Yeah. So a way of looking at capitalism's view of work is a letter by Abraham Lincoln to his brother. I will encourage you to read this letter when you get a chance. It summarizes how benefits, even though he was writing direct to his brother, telling him the reason why he could not lend him more money. It's basically telling him that go out, get a job, and once you get a job, work and make money to pay that debt. By that time, you must have developed a mindset and good habit that will help you to make more money. That way, you don't need to borrow money from people anymore. And which leads us to work morale. According to published evidence, employee morale is the amount of satisfaction an employee has with his or her job and its current working condition. So, employee morale is a way that we measure the motivation of an individual within the workplace. So, it is very, very important concept. For example, without the morale that the Ukrainians has, given that they don't have the kind of sophisticated weapon that Russia has, they are almost fighting with bare hands. Yet, because they are highly motivated, they have high morale, they have been able to withstand all the bombings. Russia, as of yesterday, Russia have thrown almost 1,000 missiles into Ukraine, yet they were not able to take over their airspace. So they are that you are motivated, you are willing to die for this thing to get your product out. Now, so meta-analysis of research studies show that showed a positive relationship between employee morale and organizational commitment. There's a positive relationship between workers' morale and their job performance. People who have high morale do better in their perform better than those who have low morale. Also, there's a positive relationship between employee morale and organizational citizenship behavior and also retention. Because of the either Western world or Eastern worlds socialization, the kind of socialization they have, some people are high motivated or have higher degree of self-discipline and tolerance than others. So how do we achieve high morale in the workplace? Well, there are many ways that this can be done, and then the manager have to figure out the best way to raise employee morale. Usually through appropriate compensation. That means if the workers were promoted when they have been in the company for a while and have been achieving results, that can motivate others to do more things that will help the company. Improve the working conditions, job safety, and provide opportunities for training and career development. Again, another one is the way the manager's attitude, the way the manager relates with employees can also have a factor in improving their morale. Okay. I encourage you to read this example I provided here of Mrs. Jules. It's very interesting. Please read it when you get a chance. So when we come back, we'll start with human relations in the workplace. Now, it will time us out very soon. Please log back in after 10 minutes if we are timed out, okay? So I see you in 10 minutes time. Don't forget to log back in.